Welcome, everybody. Today, we're going to be talking about structures for success. My name is Patricia Demaree. I'm the District Behavior Coordinator in Hurst-Euless-Bedford Independent School District. And at the end of this, if you need to reach me, you can reach me at Patricia Demaree at hebisd.edu. All right, let's get started. So hopefully at the end of this session, you're going to see the benefits of structuring your environment and how that will help your child and support your children in the home. You will know how to set up structures in your house and what kind of supports will be needed for each individual child, because everyone is different and everybody needs different levels of support in structuring. So let's just go ahead and jump in here, because there's a lot of benefits to structures. You naturally have some structures that you have created in your world that support you. For example, you probably have a calendar that you use to put all of your activities for the day, for the week, or whatever. But each of us have our structures. So some of us set reminders on our phones. Some of us use sticky notes still. I still love to use my sticky notes and make my checklist each day. Or, some of us even use something real low tech like, hey, family member, help me remember to go do this afternoon. I've used that with my children. It's not very successful. So you have to come up with something a little more concrete that will support you. But all of us has some kind of supports in place. But the thing is that if I don't know what my goals are, it's much harder for me to achieve them if I don't know what my expectations are. So creating structures helps organize the chaos, and it helps us to know what our end result is going to be. So creating a system of structure, has to be taught. It's not something that comes just out of the blue. Whether some people do pick it up from observation, seeing people do it, so they go, oh, okay, I can make a checklist, or I can create sticky notes, or whatever somebody else is using. But most children have to be directly taught, just like they have to be directly taught how to do math or reading or science or social studies. They have to be directly taught how to create structures to help them be successful. It's not something that they do without an adult directly teaching them how to do this. And it's irrelevant whether they are 3 or whether they're 13 or whether they're 20. If they have not been taught this, they will struggle with this skill. So I like to teach children how to do it, but using visuals, even if they're very, very young or very old, but the visuals will look different depending on their age and their ability level. So I'm going to show you a visual routine that I use. I know it's backwards to you, but I'll read it off. But it's a morning routine. And it says, get dressed, make bed and tidy room, eat breakfast, fix hair, brush teeth, shoes on, get bag, lunch, etc., and have a great day. So it's just a visual routine for children to use to know how to break up their morning so that they can be successful with that morning routine. Because scheduling and routines, and I use those terms interchangeably, they are something that is going to help your child to know what to do first, second, third. And you won't have to be telling them every step of the way. It creates that independence. And most of our little ones really like the independence. Now, I use dry erase markers because I'm a checklist. I like to check things off, and kids do too. So when I use something like this, I have it in just a binder with a clear cover. They can literally just use their expo and check off when they've done whatever it is that they've done. And it helps them to feel successful and know where they are in their schedule for that moment. So, but depending on the age and functioning of the child will determine how many of those supports and what those supports look like. For older children, I tend to just use a basic today's schedule. What are we going to do today? What do we need to accomplish? Now, in HEB, we do at school we have what's called their moose. And in their moose, they actually write down what they're going to do in each of their subject areas for the day. So they make that plan early in the morning, and they know what it's going to look like. Well, at home, you're going to create those schedules around whatever things I usually start with what we're struggling with the most. If mornings are really hard and it's hard to get out the door or hard to get started for the day, you've got to be very intentional about what that morning routine is going to look like, what our morning schedule is going to look like. Right now, while we're at home and we're doing learning at home and all of our instruction at home, it's really important to decide, okay, what time are you going to get up? What time are they going to eat breakfast? What time are they going to, do each of their activities in the morning? And then when do we get started with schoolwork? How long do we work on that schoolwork before we take a break? Because at school, we don't work from 8 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. There are breaks intentionally set so that our kids can maintain the highest level of learning at all times, because everybody needs a break. Some of us take them naturally by getting up and going to get coffee or having a morning snack or an afternoon snack or whatever our day. We break it up ourselves, but they need you to help them break it up. Because if we don't create those opportunities for brain breaks, then they will create their own brain break, and it sometimes is not pretty by having temper tantrums or getting upset or crying. And so we can prevent those things from happening by just creating a nice schedule for them. I tend to just go with age of how long they're going to work and when their break's going to be. So if they are 6 years old, they can typically work for 6 minutes, and they'll be very successful for 6 minutes, and then they need to have a break. And the break doesn't have to be, 3 to 5 minutes, and then they can get back to work. But if I don't schedule those breaks, then they're going to take them somehow, some way. Another visual that I like to do, and I like to do these kinds of visuals, especially for those kids that need a physical change, to be able to physically change. So if it's a start and a finish, and if I need to get my backpack and I do it, then I can move this to the finish side. So whatever my routine is, it's in this visual format, but I can move it from the start to the finish. Because that way they can, their brain and their hands and body are moving with it. It's all functioning together. And so it helps them to see this is done. It's complete. And we always have kids that sometimes need something shorter. They can't see an entire schedule because the entire day or even the entire morning or afternoon is too much. It is just too much for their little brains to achieve or to consider, because of maybe it's they just can't imagine getting all of that done. So breaking it up into much smaller chunks is exactly what they need, because that is going to help them feel successful because they get one thing done at a time. So I like to do what's called first then with a kid like that. So first you do whatever this is, whether it's homework, whether it's math or science or something specific, and then you get a preferred activity. And that preferred activity or break, whatever that is something that it's going to be down. It's going to be easy for them to do. Not something that is challenging or hard or that they're going to have to work at. It is something that is going to be super simple. So I like first thens for our kids who may need, they may have ADHD or autism or an intellectual disability, or maybe they really hate math because it's so hard. So we're just going to do a little bit of math, and then we're going to do some computer time, and then we'll get back to doing some more math. You have to make your expectations very, very clear on how much is doing it. So if I say do homework and then you get computer, what is my expectation for how much homework are they going to complete? Is it all of it? Is it some of it? And determining, what does that look like, and being very clear with my children so that they so that we're not having a power struggle because I didn't make myself clear. And they will feel successful because, hey, my mom told me exactly that I need to do 10 problems and then I can have some computer time. So that's the best way to present that and get them started and keep them going and helping them be very successful in their day. When you're using visuals, you have to teach what the visuals mean. And sometimes I can look at a computer and think, oh, okay, they'll know what that means. They know that their computer is their computer. But that's not always the case, especially things like a backpack. I show them a picture of a backpack and say, okay, you have to get your backpack. That's the first thing. And they go get their backpack, but their backpack doesn't have anything in it that they need. So it doesn't have their supplies. It doesn't have their moose. It doesn't have their folders. It doesn't have their homework. So I have to make sure that they know whenever I say backpack, that means all of those things, not just go get the physical backpack and we are ready to go. What is ready to go with your backpack? It's step 1, step 2, step 3. So making sure that they understand that. Don't assume, this is the hard one, that once you've taught this and taught this and taught this and you've practiced with your kid, and I always say practice makes perfect, but only perfect practice makes perfect. So practicing with them, helping them do this and walk through it. Don't assume that when they've demonstrated that skill a few times that they're at mastery level. Because if we have gotten into some loose structures in our home, and that is a structure. It's just not the structure perhaps that is helping your child be successful. But when we have this old way of doing things, and then we throw in this new expectation of we're going to use our visuals, this is going to help us all get organized, this is going to help us get structured, and we're going to be very successful with this. And we do it for a few days, and they may do it beautifully for a few days. And then all of a sudden they revert back to doing exactly what they did prior. That is actually normal. It is very normal because our brains see patterns, and the old pattern is the one that I'm used to, and that's the easiest path. So I'm going to go back to that every single time naturally until this new pattern and new structure becomes my normal and my routine. So don't assume just because they do it well for a few days that they have got this. Now, they might, but don't assume that, because it's frustrating or can be frustrating for the parent whenever they go, well, they did it for 3 days and now they're not. Well, that's because it's just easier to go back to the way we were doing it before, which is more of what they're used to. So always remember, as you're moving into these new patterns, pair reinforcement with the new activities. It is a great thing as you're teaching a new skill to just have some reinforcement, and praise is a huge reinforcement for children. It does not always have to be tangible. For some, it does. Some, it really does have to be, hey, you're going to get, something for doing this. But that doesn't always necessarily play out for all kids. Some kids just need that way to go. That was fantastic. I am so impressed that you did all of your morning routine and I only had to remind you one time to go back and fix this or to do this. You are amazing. I mean, just that praise goes a long way with our kids, hugs and kisses and, just way to goes and high fives and pats on the back. Those things go a long way. So don't fail to remember to pair your reinforcement with your new expectation, because this is hard. Think about anything you've had to change. Think about anything that you've had to invest. I mean, anytime you go on a diet or anytime you try to start working out or change jobs and you have a new schedule with your new job, whatever that is, it's not easy. Our brain resists change. It likes the old patterns because they're easy and they're stuck in our brain, and we want to go back to that easy, the path of least resistance. But ultimately, we're going to be more successful whenever we set these schedules up for our children and help them be successful with those schedules. I know this is a very brief overview. There's so many different questions that I think about in my own head and go, okay, well, what about this and what about this? But those are very individual for very specific students that you guys, if you have a child that you go, oh, I wish I knew how to do this. How do I get started? I mean, getting started, I always say, go slow to go fast. So pick the thing that is the hardest part of the day and put the schedule together for that, and then slowly add more and more. Now, I showed you visuals that I make through programs at work, and you may not have those programs. They don't have to look like that. You can literally go on the internet and say morning routine, and there'll be 100 different options, and you can print pictures, you can draw pictures. For some kids, you just write it out because they can read, and so you just write out the schedule. It is whatever works for you and your child. Have them have input so that they can buy in. Especially the older they are, the more buy-in that you're going to want from them, because if they don't have input, it's going to be much harder to sell. So the more choices you give them and the more opportunity to participate in building their new routines and their schedules, the more likely that they're going to follow through with them. So again, if you need anything, please contact me at Patricia Demaree at hebisd.edu, and I will get back with you, and we will work out any problems or any kind of very specific to your child questions that you may have. So you guys have a great day.